Sandy Alcántara had 3 really good starts here in June after struggling the first 2 months of the season coming off Tommy John surgery for the Marlins. And we're talking about him because obviously he's been linked to the Cubs in spring training last offseason and obviously heading into the trade deadline. Corey Friedman, how do you feel about Sandy Alcántara in general right now? We've seen a lot of bad. First 2 months had a nearly 9 earned run average to now 2.12 his last 3. Pirates, Rockies, Phillies. That's who he's faced.
Yeah, I mean, I think an obvious target for the Cubs who are looking for, to me, someone to start a playoff game, whether that is a number 1, a number 3, wherever you want to find it, someone you're confident in giving the ball in October. And for Sandy, obviously, I think the key with that one is all price, Cody. Like, his numbers on the whole on the year are not where you would want them to be for a guy that's like your key piece at the deadline. But he seems to have turned a corner on that. When you look at some of the like Stuff Plus data and like just looking at his raw stuff, still looks like a lot of the guy that was really good a few years ago is still in there. And obviously we've seen the Cubs do a lot of good work bringing guys in and getting the most out of them. The question, though, is like, are the Marlins going to ask for a price that reflects a guy that won the Cy Young in 2022? Or are they going to ask for a price, that's right now a guy that has an ERA in the 6s? And, we would be kind of like, or Jed in this case, like, is he buying the hope of the ceiling? Like, that's the key for me. It's all about the price.
In many ways, I don't disagree with the hope, but I also feel like Jed believes in what he has built with this pitching infrastructure that the Cubs have produced or made. I mean, you can look at some of the arms this year. I know a lot of them are bullpen arms, but I can also list some homegrown guys that they have developed that, 7 years ago, we'd sit here and be like, man, can we ever develop a pitcher? The reason we were going to talk about this guy, Justin Steele's out for the year,
right,
but he is a homegrown pitcher. Javier Assad has been a really hurt this year, but really solid homegrown pitcher for you. As far as guys who have helped this team this year, Chris Flexen was terrible with the White Sox last year, has a 0 ERA as we speak. Drew Pomerantz, he hadn't pitched in the majors for like 3 or 4 years. He's also has a 0 ERA. And then Brad Keller, the guy that I think we all were like, wow, in spring training, can this transition? And it has.
It did, yeah.
And so, like, those last 3 are bullpen guys. I listed a few homegrown guys that, Steele had the Tommy John surgery, and then he still was able to develop and have an all-star season. Assad has been a nice little innings eater guy for them when he's healthy. And there's other arms as well. So I don't disagree with you on the hope, but I also think the Cubs are very confident in their pitching infrastructure and how they do it and how they bring success for guys. And in many ways, that's awesome. But also, it could potentially haunt them, because if they make a trade for this guy and he doesn't ever reach or get back to that 2022 peak, or even just be that top 3 starter in the rotation, maybe not the rest of this year, but moving forward, because two more years, right? You have 2026, and then there's a club option for 2027. Right. So there is time for him to get back to that Cy Young form, but if he doesn't, then it's something that we'll definitely sit here and talk about and probably criticize them for. So
yeah,
it's definitely a big risk, I think, at the end of the day.
Well, and that's where I say, to me, it's all about price. I'm as a fan, I'm very interested. I believe, like, when you look at this stuff, and again, as you said, like the Cubs' ability to identify, hey, how do we make this work with what the guy has? If they made the trade, I would trust that they believe they could figure it out and get him, kind of continuing on this better path. It's just a question of the price, though. Like, I would trust them if they made the move that they could bring him in and have him find success here. The question is, you see some of these trade proposals out there from, folks who don't have jobs in baseball anymore, probably because they put proposals like that out there. And it's way too much. It's way too much. Again, my belief in whether Sandy could come over here and be good is different than the price I'm willing to pay for whether you think the beginning of this year is a fluke or something the Cubs could fix. It's still how he's performing. And so I just wouldn't want the Cubs to be in a position where they are overpaying or paying a price that really makes us all kind of sweat and like a little nervous about giving up some of those guys for a guy that, you'd be trusting their ability to get the most out of him. Like, he's not showing that right now. And so the Marlins shouldn't have the leverage in that situation. Now, you and I talked before, like, it's the deadline. If he's the big piece and the price goes up, you're going to have to make a decision. Like, either you don't overpay, but then you don't get the pitcher, and then you may have to pivot elsewhere. So it's a tough thing to balance, but I'm into it. I would love it if they got him. I think it would be a really good move, and I would have all the confidence in the world, like, that they would get him to a place where, like, you're giving him the ball in the playoffs and feeling really good about it. But I don't want them to pay for that ceiling right now when he's not showing it.
Right. Well, his last 3 appearances that I mentioned against the Pirates, Rockies, and Phillies last night, 17 innings total, 3 walks, 15 strikeouts, which you like to see. 2.12 earned run average with a 3.36 FIP. It's a very small sample size. But it'll be interesting to see where his numbers sit going into July or mid-July, because I think the Marlins are going to wait until the very last second to move this guy. So it'll be interesting. Again, it'll be interesting to see, but I am a little more intrigued than I was a month ago.
Oh, sure.
Because it was bad a month ago, man.
Well, and, look, like, the other thing, too, and you mentioned his contract, like, this wouldn't be a move that is only for the next 5 months. Like, he's going to be 30 in September, but you're potentially getting a guy that has several years across his career been a top-of-the-line starter. And so when you look at where the Cubs rotation is going to be, when Steele comes back from injury, Shota has to come back from injury this year, how do they feel about Ben Brown, et cetera, right? Like, if you're able to project the next 2 years on a really nicely team-friendly contract, like bringing in a guy that has Sandy Alcántara's ceiling, that would be a move you're making not just for the next few months. So I'm willing to pay a big price for it. I just don't want to pay a price that reflects as if he was going out, putting up Cy Young numbers right now. That's it.
The trade proposal that Corey kind of hinted was from Jim Bowden from The Athletic, Cade Horton, Kevin Alcantara, Owen Casey, and Ronnie Cruz. That's an insane offer.
Way too much.
And I'll just put it bluntly, like, I'm not moving a top pitching prospect for
Cade
a pitcher.
Horton shouldn't be involved. Cade Horton is the type of player other teams are trying to acquire if the Cubs were bad.
Right.
Like, he's your top prospect. He's winning games for you at the MLB level. He's not someone you're throwing into a trade package for me, unless it's for an absolute star that you have like 7 years of control over. So no, that deal is way too much.
And I wouldn't throw in Ben Brown on that either. So anyway, he pitched last night against the Phillies. It's good to see him pitch well against a good team. We'll continue to follow him these last couple weeks before the trade deadline comes up, because I do think that he might be the biggest target the Cubs can get.